I am Wilde, and this is Authentic Parenting, a podcast about personal development in the context of parenting, where I explore how you can find more calm, connection, and joy in parenting through the process of self-discovery and inner growth with a trauma-informed lens. Today on the podcast, I am circling back with past on-air coaching participants to find out where are they now and how are they doing. Was the coaching session helpful? Did they apply any of the insights, tools, and strategies that we discussed during our call in their life and parenting? What's the update? I started doing the on-air coaching calls back in 2018 and all throughout 2019 pretty regularly. I was able to get in touch with all of the participants except one woman from the UK. Bethan, if you're listening, please get in touch and send me some updates. I had a blast reconnecting with them, and I hope you'll enjoy hearing from them as well. And if you would like to sign up for an on-air coaching call, please fill out a short application. Find it in your show notes or at authenticparenting.com/coaching. Again, authenticparenting.com/coaching. It's free and no prerequisites are required. On-air coaching calls are one-time, unscripted sessions where you, the listener, get to be a fly on the wall in my virtual office as I help someone, usually a member of the Authentic Parenting community, in real time with a real challenge. Now, let's hear first from Amber from Australia, a mom to a 3-year-old girl. Amber appeared in episode 184, Disagreeing on Discipline, How to Find the Middle Ground in Parenting. Amber, when you first came to the podcast to record an on-air coaching call, what were your parenting challenges? What questions did you bring for us to discuss on the episode? Do you remember specifically?
Yes. The question that I was particularly interested is, how do you manage when you have two parents who have more different parenting styles, and how you kind of reconcile different approaches to that? That was kind of the key question that I had at the time and kind of needed your help with.
Mm-hmm. And what were your expectations?
I was kind of curious to hear from your experience in terms of what you had with your clients, because you'd had that experience seeing different styles. And when we talked, actually, you kind of mentioned that you and your husband were quite aligned in your styles, but you kind of were familiar with this type of challenge. So that was really useful at the beginning to kind of see your own experience and what you had seen as well.
Mm. And at that point, have you listened to the coaching episodes, other coaching episodes? Were you familiar with the coaching episodes?
Yes, I've listened to all your episodes.
I know. Yes. I shouldn't even ask. You're one of my...
No, I love it. I look forward to it every week. It's one of my highlights of the week, definitely.
Oh, it makes me feel so good. Oh my gosh, this podcast is a project for building my self-confidence.
Oh, but it's funny when I was listening, I think, to one of your recent interviews, and you mentioned that you'd had that experience at Voice of America when you were younger? You had done some work experience, and I just think you're so professional at what you do. I mean, this is definitely something I can see that you run it so well. It's so interesting, and it's it's done at such a high level. I think it's incredibly well run.
I appreciate it so much coming from you. I know you are not just saying those words as empty words.
Mama. My daughter, I just put the iPad on for her. Sorry, it stopped working. Mama, no. Mama, Daddy's gone to work. Yes, Daddy's gone to work. Okay. But I already go. Okay, sorry. The realities of a parent, isn't it?
Yes, I love
My
it.
end is not so professional. Yes.
Hey, I don't pretend to be professional at this either. I'm sitting in my bedroom, okay?
Oh, no, you're very good.
Okay, but thank you. It really means a lot coming from you. I know you definitely are a very intelligent, smart woman. I appreciate your feedback about the podcast, about episodes. I always open my email after every episode. I look forward to hearing from people, especially from you. Yeah, I appreciate that. So takeaways at that time from that episode in the moment, do you think, was it helpful, the coaching? Did you walk away with tips, insights in the moment? I want to know, what was your initial,
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. In the moment, I think the strongest takeaway for me was that I kind of had created a story in my head about, my husband, about his style, and you kind of challenged me on that story. And my husband and I sat down and listened to the podcast, and he said, "See, Anna understands where I'm coming from." And that was the takeaway really for me, was to see his perspective and understand where he was coming from. And in particular, you mentioned that I was kind of trying to parent for two. So I kept kind of intervening. If they were having an argument, I would try and come and be the kind of peacemaker and rescue things. And I realized that I needed to, you recommended to let them, each person has a different relationship, and that they need to sort out their style and their way of doing things. And that was really, it was really insightful for me to hear that and see that perspective, rather than the story I had, which is we've got different styles, and, I guess my style is better than his, we naturally have that preference. And then realizing, well, actually, I'm doing her a disservice, because in life she's going to deal with different people and different styles, and that's the real world, that you need to be accommodating. You can't just have people rescue you and kind of make the peace. That she needs to learn to navigate different relationships. And that goes back to, I think you had that recent podcast about not the Brazilian lady, that raising a child is it's a village approach, and that we need to let our children be exposed to different people, different styles of parenting, different people, because that gives them the benefit of learning life skills.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't, maybe that, I think it's the term, the helicopter parent, or I'm not sure,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of rushing in to rescue is not actually helpful in the long term. So that was really the immediate takeaway that I took, and I've kind of kept applying.
Mm. And what have you changed? What stuck with you after so many months? What have you implemented, and what shifted for you, perhaps, or not? Sometimes it's nice to hear good ideas, right? I read a book, I'm inspired. I do one thing for a couple of days and then I neglect it. I'm curious. This whole series is, where are they now? What's the what's the update?
Yes. Well, I will assure all the parents listening that I'm not perfect, and I haven't 100% achieved always what I set out to do. But definitely, when I start hearing the voices escalating, and my husband and my daughter, arguing about something, I try not to rush in. If I'm folding, washing, or I'm cleaning, I just kind of keep doing what I'm doing, rather than running over and trying to settle the peace. And probably one of the things that I've been thinking about is just influencing behavior. So say I disagree with something that my husband, his approach, I've got to get him on board with why I think another approach is better. And that does take time, but I might show him something I've read or something which is to try and get him to see the benefits of maybe an alternative approach. One of the things that, I definitely think after our call was we kind of were on board about not giving her a little smack if, we were just tapping her on the hand. But even that we've kind of stopped doing, that we all agreed that, that's not okay. And just family values, probably moving towards what are our core family values, and just more accepting of different styles. So I do feel like I've made some progress in that it's opened my eyes to different approaches and appreciating that.
That's fantastic. Listen, sometimes I say to myself, oh God, I can use my own services. I can use my own coaching because I get stuck in some situations with my daughter now, middle school, are very challenging. And, parenting is not easy for sure. And how about the podcast in general? What has the podcast taught you or show you or reinforce what you've already known? This is a big question, but if you were to distill it in one big takeaway, what would you say this podcast has given to you? Since you are on the call with me, I want to get everything out of you.
I think there's two things. One is I feel supported by you and the community. This week I was listening to the lady in Perth who's had some challenges, and my heart went out to her, and I just feel like that you've given a platform to people to share their experiences and to know that they're supported wherever they are in the world, that there's like-minded people that care for you and that want you to succeed in this area. I think that's like, I think that the saying that Obama, I think, said to Trump was something like, if you succeed, America succeeds. Well, I feel like it's kind of, if we succeed as parents, then our world succeeds. People are happier. And probably the biggest takeaway, and this is going to sound kind of strange, but now that I've got back to work and you see all these people as adults, and I think about their childhood and what experiences they had and how attachment experiences influence and shape so much of our life. So when I see someone who has a particular style that might be challenging or confronting, I kind of wonder, where did this come from? Was this something that you used, particularly when you talk a lot about, the trauma and how it seems to influence, particularly at the childhood level, the brain development, in terms of being disintegrated, the brain, and the man I cannot remember, the doctor you had speaking recently about how trauma seems to have actually a physical impact on your brain development. I think compassion for humans is just increased, to know that people have legacies and challenges and experiences, and we're such complex human beings, but at the core of us is still that child in us that is trying to connect and make a meaning of the world. So I know that sounds quite big, but it's given me a compassion for how, as humans, we're doing our best, and we are a legacy of our experiences.
Well said. Wow. I'm really moved, and I agree with you. Yeah, it has given me that too. More compassion and understanding, and knowing that everybody has a story, everybody is fighting some kind of battle. And it has taught me that too, that we need to be open and curious and try to understand and accept others. I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I have learned from doing the podcast as well.
And I can see how when you're the focus of how you realized at some point in your career that if you could focus on parents, giving parents support, that the outcome is a happier childhood. And I can see that so much because I think you've said several times that you haven't met a parent that doesn't love their child, but the parenting style might not be helpful to that particular child and that particular circumstances, and just how we're evolving in this area. And it's not easy when society is structured to not sometimes work against that. I definitely I've understood more the importance of parents, both the mother and father's bond with the child. And I guess the society where we send children straight away to daycare and we're off back at work, is that the right solution for kids? Just made me think about what is the best for children and happy parents.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I think you're doing a great job. And it's just such an interesting, and people's stories, I think, when I hear people and their experiences, my heart just goes out to everyone that's struggling out there, and just encouraging them to get support from whoever feels right for them.
Yes, me too, definitely.
Next, we have Zara, a single mom to a 6-year-old boy. She appeared in episode 197, How to Set Firm Limits with Kindness. That episode is in the top 10 of 2019.
When you first signed up for the on-air coaching call, what were the challenges that you were hoping to discuss on the podcast? And your episode is one of the recent ones, so I'm sure this is fresh in your memory.
My memory, unfortunately, is not very good. But thank you for the credit. I had a lot of troubles with transition. Like when he comes back to me from his dad or from school, because he had this long day at school and then he had this weekend with his dad. It was really hard for me to come back, like to reconnect with him. And for him with me also was really hard. So he kind of I feel like he builds up his emotions over there. And when he comes here, he's like, oh, okay, let me just get all this out now. So he starts throwing all of this out.
And also I remember you had an issue saying no to him when he wanted to buy things after school, little snacks, little toys, right? You live in the city, so you see a lot of things when you walk on the streets and you take public transit and all of that. Okay, so those were your main challenges, I believe. What were your expectations? Did you listen to any prior on-air coaching calls before you came to do one yourself?
Yes, I did listen. I binge listened to all of your episodes, guys. So I listened to on-air coach as well. And I was like, honestly, I did not have any expectations because for me, I was in a situation where okay, you know what? I don't think anything works for me anymore. And I'm like, done with everything.
Oh boy.
I'm like, I will try it just to say that I did give this a try, to say that, I sucked out all the information I can, everything that I could. Because in the end, so I can say, okay, you know what? I tried everything.
Do you remember during our call, while we were doing the on-air coaching call, where were your aha moments or insights or things like, oh, I got to do this. Oh, wow, this makes sense. Do you remember your immediate reactions?
Yes, my immediate reaction was that I need a guidance and I cannot make up anything in my mind. So for me, it was like, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't come up with any answer. So if I have a script, I can tell that. But if I don't have a script, I can't get out of the situation.
Mm. So what were your takeaways then from our coaching call?
I remember I had this and I actually looked it up again today on the way to work, where 4 takeaways was this reconnecting for the first 5-10 minutes when I picked him up first time, and we see each other after being apart. And then it was this $2 money pocket does the trick as well.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little more about that. Yes.
He saves. Sometimes he saves them. Sometimes he wants to spend on the toy. So the other day he saw these packages in Whole Foods, the surprise toys inside. So what he did, he was saving it, and then he got himself 2 toys like that. And in the beginning it was hard because he was like, "Oh, I can spend it," and he thought he can get anything for this $2. So it was hard for him to adjust as well and to know what he can get for this $2, what he cannot, and what he should do. So, but now it all works out very good. He's like every time, "Oh, okay, mommy, my $2, please." He is ready. He has his wallet and he can manage it. And I always say, listen, there's your $2. You can buy whatever you want on that, or whatever you feel like, or you want to save it. And then he was saving for a long time. He wanted to buy this toy from Party City, which was the whole thing from the beginning. But then he ended up buying something else. So,
and do you have feelings about how he spends his money? Does it make you agitated? Do you want to control it, or you're okay with it? What's your internal battle?
In the beginning, it was like, oh, I wanted a little bit and I wanted to explain to him. But for right now, I say, listen, we went through all of this. You kind of experienced it. You can save and buy something more bigger, which is a little more expensive, or you can just spend and buy a donut or chips or whatever drink you want. So he does it. I don't know. I let him do his own thing. I let him you figure it out. You decide how you want to spend. I just give him the options, and then he just okay, I know. Right now, he knows his options. So I don't even have to tell anything to him.
So you see, over time, it works, giving a little autonomy.
You have to, yes. In the beginning, it was the first 2 weeks. I was like, oh my God, I gave him money, and that made even worse. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be disaster. He's not ready for this. But it's just, you have to adjust with time, and you just have to work through that moment where he needs to adjust to it. I have to adjust to it. So, and it takes practice, a little bit of practice.
Yeah. And your son is 6 years old, correct?
Yes, he's 6. The other one was, which works. Actually, I tried that trick where you say, how we talked about he wanted this balloon or ball, and then we say oh, would be nice if we had all these balls, or we carry all of that. Or that type of thing. So it works. It actually, I tried that on my.
Yes, because children always want things, and it's never about really the thing. They just want, sometimes they're tired and overstimulated, whatever the reason is. They see something shiny and new. They just want that object. But when you grant the wish in fantasy, when you say, don't you wish we can have all the dolls? Oh my gosh, wouldn't it be nice to buy all the cars and bring them home? You're sort of siding with your child. You're acknowledging that they want something, and it's not a battle of, no, you can't get that. Then that turns into a power struggle. I think that
actually works on my boss's son as well. He's 5, and he had this little hard time on turning off TV. And then I was like, oh, how many hours did you watch? Did you watch 1,000 hours? 2,000 hours? Did you watch 1 hour? So we start doing that, and then we start talking, and he was laughing, are you crazy? I didn't watch that many hours. And then he's like, I want to watch forever. And then we just kind of we turned the TV off and we kind of went on without any tantrum, like, because, once you turn the TV off by power, where you say, okay, you know what, it's time, shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have tantrums. But when we did that, it was kind of like a nice transition. We just went on with something and he went on playing with his Legos. So, and we did not have this struggle with a tantrum where I want more TV and you're like, no, you're not getting it.
Yeah.
So that's a really good trick.
Exactly. Parenting is a serious business, I always say, but we don't have to be so serious when we set a limit, when we say no, when we take things away from our kids. We can invite them and be playful and creative.
Yeah.
And remember to be lighthearted and humorous. And children love exaggeration, young children. When you say, do you want to watch 1,000 hours of TV? And things like that. So it makes a big difference as opposed to being...
and it does. Like, it was really hard for me just to remember all of it. And it was hard for me also to get used to this. And I kept reading every morning on the way to work. I kept reading this 4 points. I have to remember all of them. So I would just go over and over and over for them until I actually finally start using it. And sometimes you forget and it takes time to get used to this new habit. It's just like building a new habit. So it takes time.
And so what was the last point?
The last point was to be present at this moment where he just keeps nagging you and asking you and you're like, I don't have time. It's a lot easier when you just give those 2-3 minutes and then go on with your stuff than saying, oh, okay, wait, because then he keeps nagging you, you're not done with your stuff, and then you just get frustrated because, oh, you're not done, you're not giving me a break. And then you end up not having any time for anything at all.
Yeah.
But for the moment, you'd be like, oh, mommy, can you color with me? Like yesterday morning, he was supposed to go, he goes to his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, it's a breakfast time. You need to change and stuff. So we had a little bit time. And he was like, oh, I want to color first. I'm like, okay. He was like, can you come and color with me? I'm like, okay. But after that, I'll color with you a little bit, but then I have to go make your breakfast. We did color for a little bit, and he was calm. Like, he got what he wanted. He got my attention at this moment. And then he was done with that. And then I went on and he went changing, and we had breakfast, and he went to his dad. So, which is kind of like, if you can give those couple minutes in that very moment where he just keeps nagging you and wants your attention, it's so much easier just to talk to him afterwards. Even if I don't even have enough time, I'd be like, okay, for a couple minutes, and then I will come back after I finish something. Then he would be okay.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Yes.
And even if I don't come back after it, it's okay. He's not nagging me anymore. He's not after me. He's not clinky. He doesn't go after me and saying, you said, come. So I think all of that was great, and I'm forever grateful and thankful to you.
So you are practicing, and the update is you are continuing, and that's great.
I am continuing, and I'm using of every children who's around me that I'm interacting with.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I often hear that when I work with parents, they say, oh, I applied that to my husband. I applied that to such and such. It's relationships, right? It's relationship advice.
Yes, it is, definitely. And it was really nice.
Since I have you on the podcast now, then let me ask you, what were your favorite episodes of the past year? And kudos to you for binge listening. I always admire and give a lot of credit to the people who binge listen.
Thank you.
That's amazing. So what were off the top of your head, of course, I'm putting you on the spot, what were your favorite episodes? And if you don't remember the titles, whatever you remember, we can piece together. I'll help you with that. What were your favorite episodes of this past year?
I know exactly which episode, but I cannot get it from the top of my head. It was something about get your S together or something.
Oh, I know.
Something like
yes.
that.
Mm-hmm.
That was really good one.
How not to lose your...
Yes. That one. Exactly. That was my favorite all the time. For all the times.
Anything else that comes to mind?
There was yours when you did the 200 episode. That was very emotional, and actually I did tear a little bit when you were telling about this past episode and how when you cried also. So that was really emotional and informed. And that green stroller thing, it was really awesome. That's my favorite also.
Yes, that became a phrase now in our community, the green the green stroller moment. And
yes.
If the listener doesn't know what we're talking about, go back and listen to episode 200, where I am sharing a story from when I was a young mom and I almost resigned from parenthood and left my child on the side of the street in a green stroller.
Oh, we do have a lot of those moments.
Yes. Any third episode that comes to mind that you can remember?
I can't remember out of my mind, but I'm pretty sure if I go through titles and when I look through, there are a few that I just really keep listening over and over so I can just get that information synced in my brain.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Oh, there was this one you did where this woman, she went to silent camp, I think, meditation.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that one is also one of my favorites. It's just I've been wanting to do that for a long time now, but I don't think I can do it because I talk a lot. But I do really want to try at least 2 or 3 days of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that one was really what I remember.
Excellent.
Without looking. But if I look, I can just go back and re-listen some of the episodes. But
yes,
really good.
Well, I want to thank you for coming and sharing your update. It's really fantastic to hear the update from people who appeared on the on-air coaching calls. I love hearing from everyone.
Thank you so much. In the beginning, I was just ready to give up. I'm like, okay, this is not working. But then you keep trying and it does work. So yeah, thank you. And I'm telling you again, there's no amount of words would ever be enough to thank you for everything what you did for me and my son.
Next, we have Patrick. He appeared in episode 193, 5 simple ways to relieve stress and be more patient. Patrick was the only dad who did an on-air coaching call so far. So if you are a dad and would love to do an on-air coaching call, please be sure to get in touch with me. We need more male voices. Patrick, when you first came to do the on-air coaching call, do you remember what challenges you were ready to discuss at the time?
No, not really, to be honest. Maybe stress and maybe developing patience, I think maybe was one of them.
Yes, it was all about managing stress, finding me time for yourself, and
yes,
right. And you were the first dad to do the on-air coaching call, and I was very thrilled. And by the way, it's one of the top. It's in the top 15 of 2019.
Oh, cool.
So it's a good episode, and I think it resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean. The volume could have been better, right? But it was a lot of fun to do.
Yes. So what made you sign up for the on-air coaching call?
There was a point in my life where I was doing a lot of self-care and, trying to figure stuff out and trying to get better as a dad. So I don't know how I came across you on Facebook and your group, but everything seemed to like click, and it was like one of those right place, right time things. And I'm glad that I did it.
Yes. When you sign up for the on-air coaching call, have you had a chance to listen to other on-air coaching call episodes?
I did listen to a couple before I went on that on-air coaching call, try to just get a feel for what I was getting into. But I didn't really do that much crazy preparation or anything like that for it.
Yes. Yeah. We don't do crazy preparation either. We just dive in.
Yeah.
As I say, in a true Anna Seawald style. Do you remember during our conversation? I do vividly remember our session because, number one, it was late in the evening as we're recording this.
Yeah.
This one. I think when things happen in the evening, you remember them more vividly. And plus, you were the first dad. So I was very excited about that. And very courageous of you, And I want to encourage other dads to do on-air coaching calls or just come to the podcast more.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it.
What were your aha moments during the call, if you recall?
Well, one of them was like the strengths exercise. Like we talked about how it's very easy to find like the negative flaws in you and like your weaknesses. But like when you go to, like, as you saw with me, you cannot come up with them on the spot like that. Like I could not come up with too many strengths. So that was really like, oh man, I really should start looking more at the positive stuff rather than always focusing on the negative things.
Yes, I remember that. And in the episode, I remember you were very generous of speaking about your wife and her strengths. And when I put you on the spot and I said, how about you? What are your strengths? That's when you had a hard time. But I asked you that I was going to follow up with you, which I didn't, but I'm following up with you now. Did you do that exercise outside of the coaching call? Did you think about that furthermore?
Yeah, I did actually. I actually had my kids tell me some stuff, and they're very young. They're only 4 and 2, so it wasn't as like
an elaborate list.
Yeah, it was very simple. It was like I'm a great hugger, I'm funny. What was some other stuff they said? That I make very funny, goofy faces, like very like cute kid stuff. That even though it's not like life altering, it's still very fun to do that exercise with the kids especially when they're so young. They come up with some funny stuff on their own to say, so it was cool to do that. And then just asking my wife about the stuff. I actually have the list. I actually wrote some of the stuff down.
Oh, share it with me. I wanna hear.
Yeah. So one of them was she said that I work well to get a solution. So it's never like I decide to do something and then we just go off. We work well together. So she appreciated that with me, that I'm very organized, always keeping us on like track, that I stick to my like discipline scenarios when the kids are doing something and I say that they're not allowed to do something or we're going to take something away. I never like falter on that. I never cave in so that, we're not giving them mixed signals. Scheduling time for everything, which I've gotten even better at now over the last few months. So those are some of the things that she had mentioned. And then that I'm able to walk away now when my patience is wearing thin with the kids, especially when they're having like a tantrum or something. She noticed that I'm able to kind of remove myself from the situation now. Instead of like losing my temper, I kind of just go somewhere else and decompress.
Excellent. Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's great that she can see that and mention it. I love that. That's a great skill.
Yeah, no, it's been, there's still, days where, nobody's perfect. Obviously, you still have days where you kind of lose your cool, a long day at work and then kids aren't listening. You still might yell or scream or something. But for the most part, I'm much more like hyper aware of the situation. I kind of like can remove myself and see what's happening more often now, which is nice. So I kind of like, I'm on top of it more now than I used to be, which is very good.
That's great. So you also did the exercise on your own. You came up with your own list?
No, it was kind of like the same stuff that I had, like the organized thing. I have like OCD when it comes to like keeping everything where it's supposed to be. Like, so if one thing's out of place, I kind of like, I feel like the world is like crumbling around me because it's not where it's supposed to be. So it's like one of those things, but it was a lot of the same stuff. It was like being disciplined, being organized, and scheduling time. Those were like my big three things that I.
That's good.
I actually didn't like go really in depth. I kind of just did let the kids and my wife let me know what the strengths were.
I think with the kids one, since your children are young, it would be fun to do it every year and write it down until they are, let's say, I don't know, 18. I'm not sure if they will participate when they are teenagers, but I think that's kind of a good idea to see from their perspective how they see you through the years. I wish I have done this myself when my daughter was young, but
that's like a cool evolution of what you become or what you are. Yeah, that's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, I know. See, I love chatting with people like this because such ideas emerge,
Yeah.
And so what were your takeaways from our call and what did you implement? Did you walk away feeling defeated? Why did I sign up for this phone call? Or you felt, wow, I can look at things differently? I'm just curious.
So my biggest takeaways were I really appreciated the whole finding time to like decompress or like prepare. I remember I was like vividly talking about like my commute home and like maybe that 20 minutes before I get home to kind of like close my eyes and just like visualize and kind of just get ready for being at home with the kids. I remember that was a good thing. Finding my own time. And now I like kind of instituted a 3-hour window every week where I kind of just either play basketball or go do something for myself to kind of, I guess decompress, this is the same word, but like do something on my own to kind of like refresh myself and, get like more energy, because constantly going to work and coming home and watching the kids and just doing that over and over and over, it gets, mundane and like it's the same thing every day. So it's nice to like just find some time for yourself. And the other thing I took out was like focusing on the triggers. And I remember us discussing something about like what is triggering me to be like impatient or to lose my cool. So I tried to like really focus on like what those things might be. And the things I kind of focused on was like when the kids are both crying and like uncontrollably, where like you can't even reason with them. I kind of that's a big trigger. What else was it?
That's a trigger for anyone, I think. That's a strong trigger,
like
right?
Again, I'm going to talk about my wife. She, like, I don't know if she doesn't get triggered by it. I'm sure it affects her, but she's just very like level-headed when it comes to that. And I'll just be like, oh my God, I want to rip my hair out right now. And she's just like, it's fine, we'll get through this. And then she'll like hold their hand and like count to 10 and calm them down. And it's like, just maybe you should hold my hand and help me calm down too.
Not a bad idea.
No. She, like I said, she just like seems to always know the right thing to do in the moment. So.
Well, then you are a good team. That was
one of the biggest things that I got out of this like call when I spoke to her afterwards about it. It was like we work well together.
Has she listened to that episode by any chance?
I'm not sure actually. I sent it to her. She usually listens to everything that I sent her, so I'm assuming she did. But we never really talked about it afterwards. So.
Oh, I see. Okay, well. So where are you today in terms of parenting? It sounds like you're in a good place, right? In terms of stress management. I'm happy to hear that you're doing this basketball thing, something for yourself to feel like human, to feel like you have something outside of parenthood and job something fulfilling and fun, playful.
It's a much better place than it was in August. I believe August is when we did the coaching call. Yeah, I'm just, like I said, I'm more aware of situational stuff that's occurring so that I can like remove myself. I was always very organized, but I feel like I've kind of went even deeper into that. I actually read a book called The 12-Week Year, which is a fantastic read for anybody that is looking to like kind of get more done in less time, like super focused and helping you schedule your time and schedule and like keep track, kind of like keep score of your goals. That's been a big help in my life. Like it's, when you write down goals, it's one thing, but when you keep score a little bit, you kind of see like the percentage of like the tasks you get done each week. It's kind of eye opening. When I first started, it was like I was getting 45% of the stuff done when I thought I was getting like 85, 90%. So it really helps. Like my weeks are much cleaner. I get more done now. Found more time for myself, which is nice. And that's the biggest thing with the parenting and like time management is it might sound crazy to just like schedule everything, but when you have everything scheduled, you kind of know where you have pockets of time to do things that you enjoy. And it kind of just de-stresses you knowing that you have that little pocket coming up. Even if you're having a bad day or a bad week, can see your whole schedule out in the open for the week. And it really helps like de-stress moments when, you're like, all right, today was a rough day, but I know tomorrow I have this, and this, so I can look forward to that. And just makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it's more predictable and certain, and it gives you that sense of comfort or something to look forward to. Yeah, I think for certain people, I am like that too. I'm pretty organized, and but I also schedule free time, or like Fridays and Mondays, I try to schedule no client work, so I know I can take care of certain things. I can be less stressed and less hectic. So I look forward to those days. It's true.
Yeah. And then a lot of the time your schedule gets wrecked basically. Like my week this week was completely off. I had, kids were sick. I had to work extra shifts. So kind of took away from that stuff. But in general, one week to week, it's going to be, you're going to hit the main points that you want to hit, and you just keep being consistent with it, and it gets better and better and better. And you could live with the days where everything doesn't go according to plan, which it almost never does, right? Like there's always something that comes up, but when you're prepared, it's a lot easier.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Patrick, for doing this update with me. I really appreciate you being here today, and in general doing the on-air coaching call. And I'm so happy to hear great update from you. It's really fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you calling me and scheduling the time to do this.
Next, we have an update from Wilde. She appeared in episode 156. 5 stress-free ways to motivate kids to clean up after themselves.
Wilde, when you came to the podcast to do the on-air coaching call, do you remember what challenges we discussed in that specific session?
Yeah, I was having trouble with the boys cleaning up after themselves.
A common problem, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
What made you decide to do the on-air coaching call?
I wanted to be on the other side of the table. I help parents a lot, and I wanted to be the parent getting the help. I wanted to see what that was like, and just know that like no parent is perfect, even if you're a parent coach, that you still need support. And so I felt like that was a part of my parenting that I wasn't good at, that I wanted help with.
Yes. Do you remember what aha moments or insights you had during the coaching call, if any?
I remember at the time, and I know we've made adjustments, but the really specifics, because it's been a while, I can I can kind of share, if you'd like, sort of some things we've done differently.
Yes. I would love to hear the general takeaways, what that session did for you, what you took away. Did you implement anything? Or maybe it inspired you to come up with something new on your own.
Sure. Yeah. I definitely found support and just the consistency of, I remember one of the things you said was like having a space for different activities. And we had, the boys like to make slime. I'm sure all kids like to make slime. And I remember you saying like, if they can only do the activity in a certain place, then it doesn't get all over. And so I've been a lot more consistent in saying you could do that here. And with crafting activities, we've started getting out a baking sheet, like a cookie sheet. And so it's like really clear. This is the boundary of this activity. So it stays on the baking sheet. It doesn't go on the table. It doesn't go on the carpet or, and so that's helped me give them a visual and just really sort of contain their mess and then help them make it easier when they're doing a crafting activity. Like everything's on the sheet, everything gets, and it's a lot more simple.
Did they challenge that? Did they disobey or a few times test that?
Yeah, the first time we did it, like I gave them the sheet and I went out and it was like all over the table. Like, okay, let me show you what I meant by this. And the other part of when they got all over the table, I told them, I said, I told you could do this activity, but that you would have to clean it up because I wasn't doing the activity with them that time. And I held them to cleaning it all of it up, which took them a really long time because they made such a big mess. And then the next time they wanted to do slime, I said, okay, here's the sheet. And then they were like, oh, we're going to keep it on the sheet this time. So yeah, the first time when they had to actually clean up everything, they were a lot better the next time.
And remind us, how old are your boys?
The twins are 10 years old and the little one just turned 7.
And I think we were specifically discussing the twins, as I remember, helping them around the house, picking up after themselves, right? Having certain things in certain places, making them more responsible. I really enjoyed that episode. I think it was a fun episode, not one of those heavy ones, but I think there were a lot of practical takeaways.
There's, another thing we did that you mentioned, I think, during the episode was that they don't have to switch off the chores. Like we'd been switching off the chores. And now, since then, just one of them does dishes and the other one does laundry. And that's been a lot easier too, because they just sort of stick with their thing and they know how to do it really well. And it's become their routine and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I think you had a system. You were switching chores, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm glad to hear that works out. Yeah. And they still continue doing their chores?
Yeah, they each have their one that they do, and they know that they have to do it. And, we still have to remind them sometimes. They're young, but because it's been so consistent for so long now, there's a lot less pushback on it.
So where are you now?
It would be not.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, that was the next thing I was going to say is, well, now we're at the point where like they know how to do it, they can do it, and we're at the point where we're hoping that they'll start to have more initiative to do it without being reminded.
How about the little one?
He has become the apprentice for the other two, so he's kind of taking turns helping them with the laundry and the dishes. And he's still at the point where I have to give him a specific thing, and he'll help me dry dishes, but I have to say, dry this dish or, dry the dishes on that towel. Or you can't just say, go help with the laundry. It has to be take the socks and put them in the drawer. Like if you give him a really specific task, he can do it. If you just say, help out with the thing, he'll find something else to do.
Yeah, I remember we discussed that too, being very specific. And I remember you mentioning a tsunami. Was it a tsunami that your uncle used to have this expression?
The cyclone. Yeah, it was my grandmother. Yeah, it was my grandmother. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not going to mention it. If the listener is interested, they have to listen to that episode.
There you go.
What the cyclone means. Yeah.
And we still do that. And we use a timer and it's really effective.
Yeah, that sounds good. So where are you now in terms of your parenting challenges, updates after that time we did the coaching call? Just to give a perspective to the parent who is struggling, in a sense that when we face a specific challenge, it's not forever, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that is true. I think that, as far as that challenge, I think just due to their nature, there's always going to be somewhat of a, they're not the kids that love organization. They're not the kids that love to have their stuff tidy and whatever. And so there's always going to be some level of me having to coach them through that. But I definitely feel like I have better strategies that I can, when I step back and I just be really consistent and set the boundaries, make them really clear, and then hold them to the cleaning up and don't rescue them. It's, when I rescue them, then they just know, oh, well, I can just do it again. So that's always the hard part when they make that mess and then it's taking them 2 hours to clean it up. And you have to say, sorry, you did that. So you have to fix it and to not help them. That's always a challenge for me. But in the long run, it's definitely been, it's been better.
Mm. Do you still listen to the podcast?
I have not listened as much to the podcast because I'm not in the car by myself as much. And that's when I used to listen to it. So we've been listening to audiobooks more, but I miss it. I've not been in the Facebook community as much either. And I really miss that too.
Well, I'm glad a lot of good things are happening in your life in terms of your work. I wish you well. You are sick and you made this call. So thank you so much. I appreciate that much. All the best.
I appreciate it.
And that is it, my dear listener, for this special episode of the Authentic Parenting podcast. Did you enjoy hearing from all the past participants of the on-air coaching episodes? Have you listened to any of the on-air coaching episodes? I am going to make a special playlist on Spotify, so you better get your hands on that playlist soon. For more info, episode show notes, contact info, and everything else, visit authenticparenting.com. And as always, connect to the present moment, to yourself and your children. Until next week, I am Anna Seawald. Thank you so much for listening.